My name is Luke Goldman. I'm the Chief of the Crime Strategies Bureau here at the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. As has been mentioned and has been sort of a theme during COVID and this pandemic as a whole, the stretch of resources and the reduction in those public resources across the board, whether it's a lack of pro-social activity or outreach to high-risk youth, we have seen a month-over-month escalation in the typical categories that we look at for to assess violent crime in the city. One of those being fatal and non-fatal shootings, which are up 43% during this period over last year. And as we look at them, about 169 fatal and non-fatal shootings over this period in total, 212 victims in those instances, with an average age of about 27 years old of age, and with a suspect average age of about 23. Predominantly, those shootings take place in 3 neighborhoods that account for 71% of the total shootings and non-fatal shootings here in Suffolk County. Those include Roxbury, Mattapan, and Dorchester. Roxbury, accounting for 28%, has the most non-fatal and fatal shootings of any neighborhood here in Suffolk County. In addition, not just fatal and non-fatal shootings, Danielle, if you could go to the next slide, please. When we look at fatal stabbings and non-fatal stabbings, we see a 234% increase year over year. This year, with 77 instances of stabbing, 4 of them fatal, we see a large increase in areas around downtown Crossing, Roxbury in particular, and we see this escalation in stabbings in areas where there's street robberies, street-level drug transactions, and amongst the city's homeless and drug-addicted population. We see an older group of victims, about 34 years of age, with suspects about 37 years of age. And again, the breakdown heavily in the Roxbury and downtown Crossing neighborhoods. Danielle, if you go to the last slide, please. Finally, we compare that with firearm arrests made during COVID. We see it actually flat over time, year over year, with 161 total firearm arrests. We have seized and taken off the street, or Boston Police has seized and taken off the street 161 guns in relation to those instances of arrest. The most common make and model, Smith & Wesson and Taurus and 9mm being most common. We see the average suspect age is about 27 years of age. And again, we see Roxbury, Mattapan, and Dorchester, the neighborhoods where firearm arrests mimic or mirror the neighborhoods where shootings, fatal and non-fatal, exist here in the city. And so we're looking to make sure that we are seeing where these trends and patterns are and prioritizing our resources, particularly in the Bureau, to work with our police and community partners to effectively resolve and reduce the violence, which we're hoping to do. As you can see on the end of all these graphs, we're seeing the numbers come back down after the height of the summer. Thank you.
Hi, I'm sorry. So Luke, one of the things I want to make sure, when you say that 71% of the fatal and non-fatal shootings are happening in Roxbury, Mattapan, and Dorchester, the people that are on this call that are hearing us, when you see that we're spending more time potentially in those communities and giving more resources to those communities, maybe than other administrations have, or when we see grant distributions that are targeted more to the communities that we believe have more encounters with law enforcement, and not necessarily positive encounters. It's this type of data that Luke's department that he oversees, which isn't just, it's juvenile, it's narcotics, it's the Youth Violence Task Force, it's human trafficking as well. All of those groups are speaking to each other far more often. Luke also speaks very frequently with the BRIC at the Boston Police. And Luke, what is the name of the state police counterpart for the BRIC? I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself. There's like a weird Jabberwocky that didn't let me undo it. but I know you're saying something really smart right now. So whatever Luke said, or Caitlin, I know you know. Oh, there you go. What is it?
So yeah, you can just say it's something very smart. The state police have the Fusion Center, the Commonwealth Fusion Center, which provides all that data. And you're absolutely correct, right? Those units speak to each other, and the approach we take is a more data-driven approach, so that we're prioritizing our resources in the areas that need them most, and that all things are not equal in terms of where we need to put our resources, and we need to understand where those problems are and where our resources need to be applied, whether they're prosecutorial resources or services, full wraparound services, diversion, and things like that.
Excellent. And Luke, one of the things, Luke touched a little bit on the uptick in stabbings, which we have seen almost skyrocket, right? A lot of that happening in the area down near Mass Ave and Melnia Cass. One of the things about that specific place is that there are, I think, and Luke, you can interrupt, but there are three different Boston police districts that intersect in that area, as well as the Mass State Police. So if any of you, I drive by there every night, and the Mass State Police, there's usually a state trooper on the right-hand side, right across from the Suffolk County House of Corrections, and everything is clean until that little curved corner onto Mass Ave, where you start seeing, a lot of activity with people there. But we have D4, C6, and B2 that all intersect in that area. You're going to hear from Dana Pierce and Liz Riley, who run our municipal and district courts, where many of those encounters with law enforcement end up in the Roxbury division of the Boston Municipal Court. Not all of them, but some of them do. And then the only other thing I will say before we bring it to our next speaker is, anyone who has heard me talk about safe consumption sites and has been outraged by what I've proposed, and there are many, maybe not on this call and maybe on this call. What we have right now is an unsafe consumption site. If any of you have seen The Wire, this is Amsterdam, but without Bunny and like the other beloved characters from one of the greatest shows in the history of the world. It is an open drug market. There is sexual activity happening, injections, violence, defecation, harm. We are witnessing it in every single moment that we drive by or are coming into contact with the people that are harmed there. This is, we get all the negatives of a safe consumption site without any of the positives of a safe consumption site. So, I have been very vocal that I believe there is not even breadcrumbs. There's just one loaf of bread from the moment that Long Island was shut down, the bridge, to kind of where we find ourselves right now. And, we have a lot of work to do in that area, and I understand there's a lot of frustration as a result of it. So